Hey guys, welcome back to my channel if you've been here before, and if you haven't, welcome to my channel. Here at In Your Hands Tarot, I like to do unboxings, flip throughs, review type videos on various different tarot and oracle decks, and much more. So for today's video, I am not with any of my decks, but I am with my lovely reading materials here, and these are the books that I have been using over the past few months to help me learn the tarot. So I thought that maybe other tarot beginners out there could maybe benefit from a video like this if you've been looking for some reading materials that could help you on your tarot journey and learning more about not just the cards individually, but tarot as a whole. Because yes, we all know that I love a good guidebook, but sometimes the guidebooks don't give us all the information that we are looking for, which is why I decided to purchase these lovely books here that I am going to be showing you today. So I'm gonna start with the Modern Witch Tarot Journal. So this one isn't a book like the others. This one is indeed a journal. So it's where I keep all of my notes that I take for each of the cards. I actually tend to use this book when I am making notes for my Tales of a Tarot newbie videos, when I am looking at the cards individually and want to make some notes and some points on what I want to discuss in my videos. I will write them down in this book first before doing that. And apart from it just being a very cute book physically, and I love the inside here as well, it's actually a very good book for staying organized. So we have a table of contents, and this book really has a spot for everything that you want to jot down. So we have an introduction first, a spot where you can write card meanings, which is the section that I use the most in this book, tarot readings, tarot spreads, tarot decks, books, online resources, and tarot circle. So if we take a look, we have our little introduction first. Also, there's a lot of like full page pictures in this book, and I think that it is really cute. It's very colorful and fun. So in the beginning here, it tells you what you can use each of those sections for that we talked about earlier. And then another picture, so pretty. I really love this deck also. There's so much diversity within it and a lot of like female empowerment, and you can just, it like radiates that sort of energy when you're using it. So that's something that I really love about this deck. So we have a little section here that you can read on the card meanings, and then I'm not gonna show you because my writing is super messy. So I'm gonna start on a page that I haven't done any writing, so the Emperor will start here. So yeah, it shows you a picture of the card, and then you have a section here for some keywords, correspondences, reflections, and then reversal meanings. So when I use this book, like I mentioned, the meanings, the card meanings section is mainly what I use this book for. There are a ton of other sections in here that you can be using that I will probably use at some point, but I mainly just use this section. And keywords, I always fill in the keywords because to me that's very important. Helps me to remember the meanings for the cards very quickly. And then in reflections is where I kind of write a little bit more in depth, more detail about each of the cards. And then obviously reversals, writing what the card means reversed. So there is a section for each card, even the minors as well. So if we take a look at them, the sections aren't as big, but I still feel like it's enough space to write a good amount of information. So as you can see, I haven't gotten this far yet. The Emperor is kind of where I have left off, but if we take more of a look after the card meanings, so we have more space at the back here for continuing card meanings. And then we come to the tarot readings section. So there's a little bit of a rundown here of what this section is about, what you can use it for. It even tells you about a layout that you can use while you're making your notes for your readings. So this is the page that you would fill out. I haven't used any of this section yet. I'm not sure if I will. I feel like I have a separate notebook for jotting down my notes for my readings that I do, and I feel like that notebook has served me well all this time, so I'm probably just gonna stick with it. But for anyone who would be interested in using this section for jotting down their readings, this is what the sheet would look like. So you have your information up here to fill out. You have your querent, your date, location, deck, query, the spread that you use. I'm not sure if this is like a section where you can sketch out the cards or maybe sketch out the spread that you use, not 100% sure. And then your interpretation of that reading. So it's pretty basic stuff, but it could totally be helpful when you want to keep those sort of notes. And there's a lot of pages too, so you have a lot of room, a lot of readings that you can be recording in this book. There's even a bigger section with a lot more space for interpretation if you would like to jot down more information. Okay, and then we come to the tarot spreads section. Again, a bit of a rundown of how you can use this section, creating your own tarot spreads. That could be pretty cool. I've actually never done that. I haven't tried creating my own spread. I usually don't use spreads. I'm kind of more of just a like card puller. Like I may do the 3 cards, the past, present, and future. That kind of spread is something that I'll do, but I usually just will pull cards and see what they give me when I ask specific questions. Okay, and then you can go on to drawing out your own spreads and creating your own meanings. And then it talks about tarot decks, tarot deck interview. A lot of us do that. And then this section here is for jotting down decks that are on your wish list, that you've pre-ordered, that you own, or that you recommend to your tarot friends. There's even an events section if you were to host some sort of like a tarot meetup or something. There's even spots that you can do that. So there's definitely a lot of stuff that you can do with this journal. So yeah, lots of good information, lots of good space to record notes. I definitely recommend this journal, especially if you are a beginner. Next up, I'm gonna start with the Intuitive Tarot. So this one is by Brigit Esselmont. I'm sure a lot of you know who she is. Like the book says here, she is the founder of Biddy Tarot, and I actually just signed up for the Mastering the Tarot Card Meanings through the Biddy Tarot program, so I'm super excited to work through that course and learn a bunch more about tarot. But in the past, I've really enjoyed Brigit's podcast that she has. I would listen to it while I was at work. She's very easy to listen to, and she's very clear about what she's talking about. And I just feel like a lot of the things that she says is very relatable. So that's kind of what led me to purchasing the Intuitive Tarot book. 31 days to learn to read tarot cards and develop your intuition. So it was really the developing your intuition part that hooked me. That is something that I am still working through. I'm trying to learn to follow my gut or trust my intuition more, and to not second guess myself every single time. So Brigit talks about that a lot, not only in this book, but in her podcast, and then the course is just learning how to follow your intuition. So that was a main reason for me purchasing this book. So we have a little about section here, table of contents. So a lot of good stuff in this book, especially for a beginner. So it's broken up into sections. Section 1, we have a getting started section, which is days 1 to 5. And then section 2, learn the tarot card meanings, days 6 to 21. And then section 3, how to read tarot for yourself and others. So in the beginning of the book here, we have some background history on tarot and where it comes from, which can be really interesting stuff if that is something that piques your interest. For me personally, I was quite interested in learning that because tarot is it's a very well-known tool now, and like a lot of us use it, a lot of us are familiar with it, but I don't know if a lot of people really question where it all started. And I feel like that's kind of an important thing to know. It definitely would help us to understand it a lot better if we knew where it came from. Okay, we have a how to use tarot in your everyday life. So yes, this book also has activities that you can do, which I find to be very helpful, especially as a beginner, because it, I don't want to say forces you or pushes you because those aren't very friendly sounding terms, but it encourages you to spend more time with the tarot, and by spending more time with it, you're gonna become more familiar with it and learn how it works and just connect with it all together. So these are things that you're supposed to be doing on that particular day. So the pages we just looked at previously was day 1, now we're on to day 2. So you have your information that you need to read for that day, and then at the end you have an activity or multiple activities that you can do. So this was a very interesting section for me, especially when I first started, because I didn't really know how to cleanse my deck. I didn't really know why or how important it was to do that. So there's a lot of good, useful information throughout this book, and it's very well written. It's very easy to understand, which is a huge thing for me. So yeah, basically you just go through the book day by day. You learn something new every day. The activities at the end help you become more familiar and more connected with your deck. So one of my favorite things about this book was it actually breaks down each of the suits. There's a chapter for each suit. So we have learn about the suit of cups. What do the cups tarot cards mean in a reading? What does it mean when a tarot reading is mostly cups tarot cards? So it answers a lot of questions, at least for me. As a beginner, I didn't know what the suit of cups meant, what it's a symbol for. And then same with the rest of them, the pentacles. So like it literally breaks down every single card. And as a newbie, that is extremely helpful. Okay, and then we have a section here, learn about the major arcana. Again, this section answered a lot of questions that I had. Tells us what the majors even mean in a reading. What does it mean when it's mostly majors? And then again, some activities to help you master the meanings of those cards. So there is even a section on numbers, which I'm still trying to learn. I'm still not the best with numbers, but this book is definitely helping me with that. And then we have symbolism, very important with tarot, something that I think I kind of realized a little later on in my journey. Wasn't really focusing a whole lot on like the individual symbols that were being represented in each card. I was kind of just looking at the cards as a whole and not really breaking them down. And so this book kind of opened my eyes to that and showed me to look a bit deeper within each of the cards, not just what's on the surface. So there's a section here on common symbols used, which is really helpful because these are definitely things that we see a lot within the tarot cards. Having it broken down like this makes it a lot easier to understand. And I liked how there was even a section here about personalizing symbols. So just because a symbol already has a specific meaning doesn't mean that that's what it has to mean all the time. Everyone sees things and relates with things differently, and tarot is kind of open to accepting that. It tells us here a little bit on finding the story within the cards, which was again something I found myself learning a bit later in the game. Meditation with tarot for the people who are into meditating. So yeah, just a lot of really good, useful information within this book. This is another book I would highly recommend for a beginner tarot reader. Definitely one of my favorites. Next up, we have the very plump tarot for dummies. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you are familiar with the Dummies books. I personally love the Dummies books. It really breaks it down to the point where anybody can understand anything. And they're always very humorous in the way that they go about trying to teach us things, which I really appreciate because it kind of takes the feeling of like stress of trying to learn something, kind of like lessens that and makes it more of like a fun, good time. So this is another good book for looking deeper at tarot and not just card meanings and like, you know, everything on surface level. This book definitely goes way deeper than that. So I'm not going to go through all of it because this will definitely be a really long video if I did that. But if we even just glance over the table of contents, you guys can get a rough idea of what you could find in this book. So again, we have our introduction up here, getting to know tarot, history about it, and then we have a guided tour in part 2. So it goes on to talk about the major arcanas, the court cards, the minors. It really just walks through the entire deck. Part 3, experiencing the tarot, handling, mixing, interpreting the cards, going deeper, meditating again with tarot. Tarot spreads aren't for sandwiches, and a help wanted section. So again, with the humor, keeping things fun and light, I really, really enjoy that about these books. So part 4 is kind of like a more personal section, a deeper section. Again, talking about numerology, which I really like, astrology, alchemy. So yeah, a bit more of like deeper parts behind tarot. In part 5, there's even a tarot misconceptions section, which I have already read because I think talking about those things is really great. I like debunking all of the rumors and the false accusations against tarot. And then there's even a 10 cards most likely to cause a freak out, which I think is also a great section. Okay, and then we can look at the actual table of contents where it kind of breaks down even more in more detail what's going to be talked about within each of the sections. So I really, really enjoy the dummy book for this reason. It really goes into a lot of detail. It really breaks down every single part to tarot, but it does it in a very easy to follow, again, funny, light-hearted sort of way. It talks about serious things and like literally chips away at everything, breaks down every single part, but does it in a way where it doesn't feel overwhelming or like you're being swarmed with a bunch of information that your brain can't handle, you know? So if you are looking for a book that is gonna go into a lot of detail, a lot of depth about tarot, then I would definitely recommend the Dummies book. If you're looking for something a little more simpler, more just like straight to the point, or just surrounded more on like card meanings and more of like the surface level type of stuff, then maybe this book wouldn't be for you. But if you're someone who wants to get down to the nitty-gritty of tarot, then for sure check out the Tarot for Dummies book. I actually discovered my soul card while using this book. There's a section in here that tells you how you can go about finding your soul card, which I had no clue. I would see people talking about it online, about their soul cards, and I had no idea how to even go about figuring that out. And then I was flipping through this book and came across that section, and I did the calculations and I figured it out. And yeah, even just like that kind of information I was really excited to find that out about myself. And I feel like that's not something that you're going to find in a book that just talks about the basics of tarot. And for those of you who are familiar with Dummies books, you'll kind of already know how they're laid out. There's the little remember symbol that you'll see throughout the book. We even have a real life example. Let's see if you can get a closer look. So yeah, these are just common things that are found within the Dummies books. And anyone who has other Dummies books for other topics, you'll already kind of know how it's going to be written and how it's going to sound. There's even a section talking about the zodiac signs and the major arcana. So like, this book really goes into it. Like, it doesn't hold back. It literally talks about everything. I feel out of all of the tarot books that I own, the Tarot for Dummies is probably my first like go-to. This is the one that I will reach to grab when I feel like doing some studying, just because I feel like we get along very well, and I really like how it's broken down, how it's written. Once again, very easy to understand, very easy to follow. So yeah, again, another highly recommend. So I saved the Ultimate Guide to the Rider-Waite Tarot for last because this is a good book also, but I feel like this one may not be the best for a beginner. Like, I feel like this one is definitely better for someone who's already a little more advanced in tarot. So if we look at the table of contents here, we have an introduction, we have tarot interpretation, the easy way, an overview of the major and minor arcanas, important symbols and interpretations, more about spreads, tarot and astrology. So like, it does offer good information also. It even breaks down each of the cards as well, which is really good. But my only thing with this book is that when it comes to breaking down the meanings of the cards, it's a bit more, the writing is a bit more complex than the other two books that I talked about. So if I get an example here, this is another book that kind of goes into a lot of detail about each specific thing. So if we look at the Magician card here, on this page, it's breaking down like literally every symbol, which in my opinion, it's a little much for someone who is just starting out. I feel like someone who's more advanced, who's been doing this for a while, would appreciate and maybe benefit from this sort of breakdown more than someone who's just starting out. And again, this is just my personal opinion. This is kind of me just speaking as a beginner myself, how this sort of breakdown makes me feel. Granted, it is a good reminder that every single image in a card, every single symbol, everything that is in the imagery, it has a meaning, it means something, it's there for a reason. And that is a good thing to keep in mind. But once again, I don't know, just as a newbie, it's a little much. It's a lot in the beginning to try to master, you know, or to try to memorize. But even like me personally, I don't reach for this book when I want to know the meanings of the cards. This isn't my go-to book. It still is a lot of good information though, and I do appreciate that. It's just, at least for me, where I am on my tarot journey in this moment, I don't really connect with this book as much as the other two. I feel like I'll find myself reaching for this one a bit more later on in my journey, when I'm a bit more familiar with the cards and a bit more advanced, and maybe I want to look deeper into the meanings behind every single detail within the imagery. But maybe if you're not a beginner and you are somewhere on your tarot journey right now where this sort of detailed information would be something that you would benefit from, then maybe this book is for you, or it should definitely be one that you check out. I do like its spreads section though. Unlike the other parts of the book, it's very easy to understand. And then we have a tarot and astrology section in the back, which would be very interesting. So yeah, still good information in this book. I just feel like it's aimed more towards a different type of tarot audience rather than a beginner. And yeah, like I said, this is probably going to be a book that I connect with a bit more later on down my tarot journey. Not really so much right now. So there you have it. Those are my lovely tarot books that I turn to for advice and help whenever I need it along my tarot journey. I hope I was able to help in some way, especially if you are a tarot newbie like myself and are looking for good books that help you, you know, break things down, maybe learn a bit more about tarot on a more of like a deeper level. But yeah, in my opinion, all these books are good in certain ways, but I feel like everyone could probably benefit from these books at some point on their tarot journey. Feel free to comment down below if you have any of these books and if you find them helpful, if you use them much. If not, I definitely would like to hear your thoughts. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it to be beneficial in some way. And yeah, please subscribe if you would like to stick around a little longer and see some of my upcoming content. I would greatly appreciate it. And I shall see you guys in the next one.